Hello everyone, welcome back to Wondour. We have Taylor Speegle, Dylan Stroud. Hello. My name's James Hsu, and today we're going to answer everyone's most sought out question that we've been getting on our community number. By the way, it's 702-602-8802. All you have to do is text us any question, and I will have the boys answer those questions live for everyone to be able to hear. And the most sought out question, gentlemen, is talking about Metaverse and Web3. Who's first?
Me?
Dylan's going to lead us off.
Yeah, happy to. Well, yeah. So, I mean, one of the most common questions we get is really just what is the metaverse, and so we could talk a little bit about that. Really, it's just a 3D layer to the internet, and what we're seeing is this surgence of hardware technology, immersive technology like virtual reality and augmented reality, where we take internet experiences and we bring them this 3D layer with internet. So there's going to be a huge variety of experiences that are going to happen, social, productivity, games, entertainment. All of this is going to come into the metaverse in a variety of unique ways that we haven't seen before.
I think it's just an improvement. I honestly think it's, as Dylan said, kind of a 3D layer to the internet. I think it's an improvement upon what the current internet platform is. Because I think there's this more humanizing connection to it. You're making it more immersive. You're introducing engagement with more of your senses, right? So more sense of depth. Be able to replicate scenarios like you and I sitting here, rather than what I do remember is AIM, right? You're sitting there on AOL Instant Messenger and you're chatting people and you thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and it was almost like, oh, I'm sitting here talking to people and it's like, my parents, do they even know? And it almost seemed like this dangerous thing that you were doing. But that's how you engage with people at kind of the slightly earlier stages of what was the social, kind of more Web 2.0, if you will. And then that evolution is just going to be fantastic in terms of creating more, human-like, more enjoyable, more experiential way to explore content and do all this. I'm doing a Google search, right, about places I may want to vacation. Well, now take that same ability to kind of search for where I want to vacation, but now I'm standing there, whether it was through videography or a recreated digital simulation. I'm sitting there in Bali, looking around and understanding, and feeling what it would actually be like to be there.
I may age myself a little bit, but I remember the first time I was on AIM, to what you were saying, and then the idea of chat rooms that they invented, right. And then they made chat rooms specifically to things you're interested in. So I was really into Nintendo, and all of a sudden you have all these people that had the same interests as you, and it was one of the wildest things I remember. It's like, wow, where do you live? Oh, I live in da-da-da. Okay, that's far from me, that I've never been to.
Right.
Yeah,
that was, I think, a magical experience for a lot of people the first time they were like talking to a friend or meeting someone online with similar interests, and like you're doing this from different places on Earth, in text form versus like on phone calls. So, and that's one thing that I think the metaverse, a lot of people underestimate, is just, it's a whole nother level of bringing people together where, while we can have video calls and audio calls and send text messages, we've seen that all advance to a point now where we can fist bump in an environment, or watch the same TV, or play a game together like pool or throw darts. There's all kinds of fun things that's going to really sort of start to break the boundary between feeling like we're actually with the people that we love and care about. And same thing, meeting people with common interests. We're going to be able to share these shared spaces and share common interests in a way that feels like we're actually together, no matter where we are on Earth, which is a really exciting thing about this.
Taylor, what's been your first Metaverse Web3 experience? Do you remember?
One of my earlier memories was actually sharing it with my mother. In which case I put on, this was in the virtual reality side, I put on it was fairly early stage VR headset on my mom, and it was at an elevator. I think you were in like a hot air balloon. And I put it on her to show her, like, hey, do you want to check it out? And she put it on, and she clambered against the wall because she's petrified of heights, and slid down the wall. And,
wow.
And so while hers,
amazing.
Well, yeah, while hers was kind of that negative experience, I think more than anything, it showed you, no matter your age, right, what it can do to transport you into a different world. And just imagine, this was a few years ago, right? And the technology has gone so far and so advanced. The worlds that we're building with platforms like Unity and Unreal Engine are astounding, and deploying those on better and better headsets. It's going to be amazing on what we can create and what our imaginations can create. So even just the last few short years, you've seen incredible progress. But yeah, those are one of the early memories that just stuck with me. Of wow, okay, this is, when I put it on, I was like, okay, well, this is kind of early stage. I get the point. But then seeing how she reacted, I understood kind of where this could go once the technology got a little bit better.
Telling you, what's one of your earliest?
I think probably, earliest would be reading Snow Crash, as the original book, I think, where they coined the term Metaverse.
Yep.
And so that was a fun experience. And I've always been deeply embedded in like sci-fi culture. I love watching all those sort of movies, and thinking about the holodeck and Star Trek, all that fun stuff. And so I think just hearing about it, thinking about it, dreaming about it, that's probably just something that feels like it's been a part of my life. And then when we started developing these things, we had early dev kits for like the initial Oculuses, and even like things like Google Glass, which technically could be considered part of the metaverse in the sense that they're trying to create like head-mounted displays and things that might eventually be 3D and stuff. So I think that definitely the book is my first experience, and then just trying those early dev kits and some of those early experiences where I was like, wow, the not only just being able to be present and look around, but having the sense of depth felt more dramatically different to my sense of presence than I expected it to. So I remember just having that wow moment on one of those early dev kits where I was like, oh, okay, this is something real here. It's going to be something exciting.
Well, let's segue into it. So you guys have seen the early development kits that have come out, and where the technology has grown so fast over the past 3, 4, 5 years, like you said, Taylor. Yeah. Where do you guys see, and we'll talk about, first off, let's talk about one of my favorite industries of all time, filmmaking, AMC's, the big theater chains. What's in the future for them?
Yeah, so I mean, on the hardware side, first and foremost, we've seen dramatic advancements, to your point, and we're just going to see the hardware get better. Resolution is going to get more true to real life in terms of what we experience. They're already talking about things like the visual Turing test, where we have resolution, field of view, things like this are going to continue to get better. And then the hardware devices that we use to experience these experiences are, of course, going to continue to shrink and become more trendy, ubiquitous digital eyewear that looks like the stuff that you'd usually use. So we're going to see those shrink and get more user-friendly. And they're already at a point today where the resolution is so good on the certain headsets that you can it really is in some cases already better than real life, in the sense that you just have so much more flexibility, right? You can take any size screen TV you want anywhere you want in the world. And so if you're on a plane, you could technically have a screen the size of a movie theater with virtual reality. And while the resolution is already very good, you can even have that be a 3D screen. You can make it curved. We all three of us could be watching that together in the seats and feel like we're in a giant movie theater. So kind of getting to that starts to open up doors of movie theaters, places where people go to watch this kind of entertainment. It's definitely something to think about. Is people can now have the movie theater experience in virtual reality because of the sense of presence. And we can share these experiences in shared spaces, which can be infinitely large. They can be on a space station or any interesting locations. And we can perfectly tune the environment to be perfectly quiet, to be able to mute other, less distractions. There's all kinds of amazing things there that can happen. And really what it's going to allow us to do is get together into these shared spaces and watch those worlds. And there's already emerging technology that even allows us to use what's called ray tracing technology, which basically takes the light from the screen and bounces it off the room. So again, just another visual cue to get you a sense of, you see blue light coming off it and our faces light up blue. Taking popcorn, chewing it, all kinds of fun things are going to be possible there. One of I think the most exciting things for things like movie theaters is they're in the situation where they obviously already have people who are used to going into these environments, and they have the capability to show movies as they release. And they're obviously things like pandemic proof. There's times where people may prefer to do this in virtual reality. So I think it's definitely an opportunity for movie theaters to think about additional revenue streams, just people who can't make it into the theater, or to use it more regularly than they normally would. Even as a service as part of some movie theater subscription plans where they allow people to come in, this could be a very great augmentation and value add to movie theaters like that, to try to just provide more value and get more subscribing customers.
Yeah, Taylor, so like AMC's here in America, they almost went out of business because of the pandemic. And then now a lot of the Disney Plus, Hulu, Paramount Plus, all the subscription companies, they really went straight to streaming. Didn't even do a theatrical run, went straight to streaming. And it really hurt the business a lot. And a lot of people were like, well, the movie theater business, what is that going to look like in the next 5, 10 years? People do love movie theaters. They were just afraid that is coming back. But it is going to be interesting because the day and date, depending on what country you live in, movies don't come out at this exact same time. But with entering the metaverse, I mean, it all can be day and date now, and there could be literally 1 billion people in India that don't get X movie now can all watch at the exact same time using the technology.
Yeah, and I think it is better for the movie industry, especially compared to, if I was AMC, for example. You see what streaming has done. You see people's, first thing, adoption. People are willing to stay home. People want to often stay home instead of necessarily going out to a movie theater. And that's becoming more commonplace. So it kind of proved the validity and viability of staying at home and having a movie-going experience. And also an aptitude for theaters to be able to, production companies to also release their movies, direct at home. So it's kind of shown that the market is willing to do that, and the market is going to do that. But I think for somebody like AMC, you're already seeing some startup apps and startup ventures try to recreate what is the magic of going to a movie. And I think that's where people like AMC can differentiate themselves with like a Paramount Plus. What is that? It's kind of like browsing through. It's like browsing through channels. They're not curating that experience specifically for movies and what that represents. And so I think it's what is that going through all those elements of magic that creates the movie-going experience, why we love to go. The social aspect, being able to go and sit next to each other and chat and talk and discuss, having kind of those kind of more novel experiences of sitting there with snacks, and it's almost like more of the motion of doing it necessarily. And so we could actually have Dylan sit next to me, and he can have a digital thing of popcorn, right? And I can actually watch him chew, and we'll be able to actually detect hand movements and gestures, and eventually facial tracking. So you can actually see his mouth move, and his eye tracking is coming as well. So that human experience will very much be there. The social experience can be there, and I think that they can leverage it to their imagination to say, okay, what are the magic things about going to the movies? Let's make sure that those are still present, but now let's let our imagination run free, right? If you're going to a space, going to see a movie like Gravity or Interstellar, right? Okay, what kind of experience do you want somebody to have? Well, let's make it space themed, right? And you have these big launches and big premieres. Go sit in a space station. I think maybe Dylan had mentioned it. Go sit in a space station with your friends in a theater setting, in an intimate setting, whatever it may be, and screen that movie. Really create amazing experiences, which going to a movie isn't just going to a movie and watching something on a screen. It's a full experience. Recreate those experiences and then let your imagination run. And I think if they do that well, and really let creativity run, you're going to be able to still exist as an AMC or Regal or whoever it may be, in the presence of pure streaming kind of environment. And again, you still are always, I think there's not going to be only virtual reality, metaverse experiences, and it's going to shut down in person. I think both can exist in harmony with each other to maximize what the movie-going experience is.
Yeah, you can always have the perfect seat, right, in VR. If you just happen to like a spot, we can create infinite instances where you can always get your perfect seat. You can have other people in the room with you if you want, people that are not your friends. They can be public lobbies. You can meet people, have discussions, even things that are, and when you think about it, like the reason you go to a movie theater is because you really want to have this giant screen experience. You want to be captivated by your sense of sight and your sense of sound. And of course, this is what virtual reality does so incredibly well, is we can completely take over your sense of sight. We can transport you somewhere else. We can remove distractions, audio distractions. We can give you complete control, and you can bring this with you wherever you are. And really the social capabilities of this are already there. You can, when you're speaking, you can have the mouth move right now. If you fake crunch, there's fun things that can add, right? You can throw tomatoes, just fun little novelties, awesome. Right? If you want to.
Talk about empty calories. I can eat finally and not worry about how many nachos I ate.
Yeah, so and that's an example of something that's just kind of like a fun thing. You can always just disable those sort of things, but you can imagine all kinds of different simulated experiences where in 3D you can even create hybrid experiences that make it more interesting. And you can do this with the same device. So it's a really exciting time, I think, for movie lovers, just because it would have been impossible to do this any other way, right? To be able to bring the biggest screen possible. You can't even have the screens this big in your house. You can now genuinely bring this along with you at a quality level that is starting to rival real life. So I think it's definitely something that everybody should be thinking about.
Is there already a company that's in the movie industry that's already partaking in the metaverse, coming into it?
Yeah, there's a number of companies in movies and really just a large intellectual properties that are starting to think about how can we enter the metaverse in terms of creating entertainment, getting into various different lands and real estate and different sort of metaverse experiences. There's also a handful of IPs that are creating sort of teasers for their experiences in 360 3D video or more gamified experiences where you can get involved. So there's a ton of entertainment experiences, and there are a number of people that are starting to explore venues as well to show entertainment as well. So I'd say the answer is yes. I think pretty much the entire industry is starting to look at this and starting to wonder, where is this going, and is this something we should get involved with while it's early enough to actually take a large percentage of this and make something really valuable for people.
Are there any innovative ideas that you guys think that they should be looking into specific?
Well,
definitely.
I think on the innovation front, but a little bit to the point of Dylan's piece is, I think movie theaters are in a perfect position now to create the beautiful hybrid between, you go to the in-person session, you have the connection with that brand. When you think of movies, you want to go home, you can still experience all of those pieces. But there are even discussions of movies being created that are metaverse movies, right? 3D, 360 movies. And those are things that a brick and mortar theater are going to struggle with to be able to feature a lot of this content unless they're thinking about it. And so I think that's another piece, is that the medium and the content is shifting. It's not necessarily just filming in a 2D setting. Like as we know, we've done a ton of work, I think 1,200 plus 360 videos. It's coming in various forms, and so while there still will be a place for brick and mortar and changing those experiences and being able to maybe put on headsets even physically, I think that a theater really needs to be able to start entering into this space, because if they don't, they won't actually be able to feature these new mediums and these new creative expressions of what cinema and what a film actually is. So I think in terms of the innovation, that's a huge innovation that's coming down the line that will be at least a segment of what a movie looks like. And so how are you going to actually stream that? How are you going to monetize that as a theater and create that experience?
Yeah, there's definitely, movie theaters, I think, in the digital landscape, users are so used to subscription models and getting access to these things that I think leveraging a more active customer base, there's definitely innovation models of their actual business model in terms of finding the right pricing structure, getting people into subscription plans, getting early access to movies. These are things that you can do from home for people, which would be really exciting. And then of course, if there were movie theaters that were thinking about this, it's really about innovating to create these shared spaces that feel real, that have an ambiance, that feel like you're in a lobby. These are movie lovers, you can talk and meet with people. Go into certain rooms and actually pick which rooms you're in, making sure that you can control your environment. So if you want quiet, you can remove people, have private lobbies where it could just be, the three of us watching our favorite movie. There's also, really unique things like technically we could all be hanging out in that movie theater and be watching separate movies. I get different audio and different visuals on the screen than you guys get, but we all feel like we're in the same room because we just want to hang out and have a movie night. And so I think really if there are companies that are thinking about innovating here, it's just try to build environments that feel real, that feel like they have that sense of ambiance. And I would think about just giving people access to these movies and a variety of different experiences that they wouldn't otherwise, like really cool movie theater rooms that are just don't make sense to build in the built environment because they'd be too expensive. You can build incredibly beautiful movie theaters that just frankly don't make economic sense that you can have in virtual reality. And so, we could be in beautiful places, watching beautiful, all kinds of cool experiences. Just think about those sort of things. What are the areas that can be augmented in such a way that wouldn't be possible in real life, that can provide real value to people, aside from let's get together and watch, the movies that we already love.
Yeah. I think from a, first thing, the economics of it that's the ultimate driver, but if you create enough of those novel experiences and also create things custom to the user, knowing exactly where the user likes to sit in a movie-going experience and being able to create consistent groups where they can invite people to come join them consistently, I would say that the whole subscription model that movie theaters, brick and mortar movie theaters have been rolling out, that's so prevalent in the digital space, I think that's a major piece of long-term viability, is getting a user to want to continue coming back to your experience in person and in the digital world again and again and again. Continue to make those experiences memorable. I think long term, right, that's how you're going to break away from, well, I could just turn it on streaming. Well, let's create something that's truly novel, truly memorable, where I know, like for example, AMC or Regal, that I always go there because I have a rewards point system that's still prevalent in the real world and in the digital world. I have rewards points. I have subscription bases, so I can actually get releases of particular movies. I can have all these premium environments accessible to me. I think there's really a lot to be had to get a recurring, almost subscribing user, and I think that actually reinforces the whole subscription model instead of just in person. If you unlocked a subscription that allowed me to both go in person on a fairly frequent basis, as well as have full access or at least partial access in the digital world, that's what's going to hook me, right? And I'm actually probably more likely at that point, because I have the subscription, to watch at home and then go to a physical movie in ways that I necessarily wouldn't. So I think there's a huge economic upside there.
Yeah.
Yesterday at our Wonder event, we had the premiere of Nope.
Yep.
And it was interesting because as soon as it was over, we had it wasn't a lot of us, it was maybe 10 or 15 of us huddled up, and we were all talking about, well, what did this mean? What did that mean? And that was just between our Wonder event that we had at AMC Town Square, which was a lot of fun. But it's going to be interesting to see when they start evolving the VR chat, avatars, people that you never would have met, someone in New Zealand, someone in Mexico, someone in India, someone in China, someone in Shanghai, someone in Hong Kong, or whatever, and we're all watching Nope, or whatever movie comes out at that time, Avatar 10, and we're all talking as a group afterwards.
Yeah.
And that will really get building the environment even further.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another thing that's like financial feasibility, right? You have this big movie theater, you watch this movie, everybody has this emotional excitement, they're at this positive place, and then what do? We have to leave because they need to get the next people in. But in virtual reality, in the example of our Note premiere, technically we could have all watched that together, and then as soon as the movie's over, we get transported to the location that we're all in. We're out in the wilderness, there's big sky above you, and we're actually hanging out in a scene that was in the movie, and then we can all have like a movie talk after, an after party, so to speak. And this isn't something that makes sense with traditional, buildings, because you just need to leverage every square foot to generate revenue. Well, this is a way that we can do that in a way that's just not possible in the real world, which would be a lot of fun, right? Meeting people, talking about the movie, hey, what did you think this meant? Making friends, right? And making this more of a social experience for people, both before, after movies, and all kinds of fun innovations that you can come up with by just getting people to watch things that they love and do so together, and not be limited by the constraints and the financial constraints of the built environment. To your point, yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. There's a lot that can be done there.
Yeah, just continuing, brainstorming ideas is one. We talked about our premiere, right, where we have the whole theater. Is think of corporate events. People host corporate events all the time already in movie theaters, and they may rent out a theater specifically for their team to kind of help as a team building event. That's something that, especially in a remote workforce, those types of experiences aren't as prevalent because the workforce is no longer consolidated. So going to these kind of in-person events are less common. Well, you can still now get the upside of those types of team building type events, but in a digital space. So you can create feature sets that allow companies specifically to coordinate and host big rooms and have their branding, in theory, they come in, and before the movie starts, you can have your own branding up there, your corporate branding. Every branding element in the physical world can be duplicated in the digital, and so you can now create and monetize and either replicate ways you've been doing in the physical world that now are becoming slightly more rare, or create more enhanced versions of those same experiences. But I think that's another kind of interesting new monetization aspect that can be leveraged.
Yeah, and of course you can always monetize customers that don't have access to your theaters if they happen to be in locations where you don't exist. In the metaverse with virtual reality technology, they can be your customers, right? You can have subscribing customers that just want to see the movies as they come out in their shared environment, and maybe your experience can be one that can capture those users. So you can definitely broaden your demographic, broaden your market, and grow to places where it maybe doesn't, again, make economic sense to have an actual building and invest in the community there. You can still find customers in locations like that. So tons of ways to innovate here, really, and that's just barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, our next Wonder movie premiere is going to be Bullet Train, and we may have one of the actresses in the film. She might be coming, and then if she does, we would love to do a Q&A.
Right.
But if you actually, because for movie production companies like Disney or Paramount, it's so important to have the big opening weekend. So it would be amazing where it's like if you watch it with all of us now in our metaverse, if everyone watch theater, the director and the main star, Brad Pitt, will be on afterwards for a 10-minute Q&A.
Right.
That would secure so many people they're like, okay, I am not missing that, versus if a director is going to be there and it's only in LA, well, one, you have to be one of those 300 people that just happen to be able to fit, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's another example of like you can actually bring real people that are involved with the film or anyone that might be of interest to that community, and you can bring them in to kind of help entice and make it more interesting. They can be in, one of the avatars that's in the room. You can have conversations with them, meet them after, all that kind of stuff. Definitely amazing. And then of course, there's all kinds of different monetization things that you can do, like buying access to more environments or paying for access to talk to actors or actresses, things of that nature. Different avatars, clothing, early access to movies, more exclusive premieres where everyone that's in this virtual room is still, from this private community. All kinds of amazing things that are going to be possible.
I love that idea, right? The fact that how much money I would pay, right? I would pay, it's maybe just incentivizing that. I would pay more money than the average ticket to go to an event where like Brad Pitt after Bullet Train is going to have live.
Yeah, I would too, genuinely.
I would pay more money for that. I think it would make it more of a novel experience, replicating that. And that can get people hooked into your subscription plan, right? Yep. So if you're a subscriber, all of a sudden that can happen. But then there's even like long term, right? A lot of the times, Top Gun. I've yet to see Top Gun. Everyone, including everyone here, has yelled at me because of that, because it's a phenomenal film.
Yes.
But one of the main things is being able to have that experience in a movie theater. And if I miss that brief window where it's in theaters, then I lose out on what that movie theater experience is like. And I think it's another really compelling piece about the movie theater in a virtual reality environment and a metaverse environment is those sensory elements I don't lose. It's not like, okay, if it's out of theaters, now I only have to watch it on a 2D screen and that's it. I now can have those showings last longer. So even past movies, even Jaws, I think, is coming out with kind of a reinstallment in IMAX 3D or some effect like that. Those types of older movies can still be seen in these movie-going experiences. And so it doesn't have to just only be the movies of today, but you want to go see any movie that's been released at any time, as long as the theater in theory has licensing for it. You can go and re-experience Lord of the Rings again at any point in a movie-like experience. And I think those pieces are also compelling beyond that, just that initial window of trying to get all of that sales and all that traction on release for a few weeks. That now the lifespan of potential movie monetization and people wanting to go to those experiences is expanded.
Yeah, and there's also things like we're not limited to the constraints of physics in real world. So, in virtual reality, if we're all in this movie theater and Brad Pitt's in front of us, technically Brad Pitt could look like he's in the movie theater for everybody if it's just something like a speech. Q&As, you could instantly teleport into every single different instance that's filled with hundreds of people, so from all over the world. So we don't have to be in that one location, to Taylor's point. So yeah, it's so much to think about here. It's really an exciting prospect.
I want to go see a movie now.
I mean, there's so much more that we could really talk about especially us talk for hours on like different things that we could really do. But let's hear some closing thoughts on it. Movie theaters, Metaverse, Web3.
I think there's an incredible opportunity with movie theaters and helping to change and enhance the movie-going experience. And virtual reality is not a thing of the future. It's here today. I think the Oculus Quest 2, now the Meta Quest 2, was like the most popular Christmas gift of this most recent year. Wow. And there's over, I think one of the most recent stats is 170 million virtual reality users in the world today. So this is not a passing fad. This is not something that's coming in the next few years. This is something that's already here, and it's evolving quickly. So I think there's an incredible opportunity. I'm excited about the movie-going experience and how it can translate in the world of virtual reality and the metaverse in the future. And so really with that, I'm optimistic about what it's going to mean for something I love, which is going to the movies.
Yeah, really, it's still early enough, and this is a technology that's emerging. There's a huge opportunity, so it's just something we'd recommend looking into.
It gets me so excited because it's kind of like when YouTube first came out 1.0 versus the YouTube we have today. Completely different. Even though they still just play videos, yes. Right. The experience, what we can do with it, and with 170 million, and just over time that number will go into the B's, in the billions.
It's accelerating.
And it's going to be amazing what that technology is, and seeing the companies that really position themselves for the success, for this emergence that will happen.
Right, yeah, absolutely. That's the name of the game, go where the attention is.
Got to do it. If you guys have any questions for Taylor or Dylan, all you have to do is join our community. To do that, text any question you have to 702-602-8802, and I will get these guys on camera and we will answer those questions for you. How do we get a hold of Wondour?
You can check us out at wondour.com, WONDOUR.com. Team@wondour.com is our email, and really anywhere you can find us on any socials, direct message us, and we're happy to reach out, happy to talk honestly talk for hours on this kind of stuff. So we're excited.
And it's been fun having people DM us, and then we set up Zooms, and we're just talking about technology, whether or not we work with them either. It's just a great time just
We love this stuff.
meeting people that have the same interest in these business owners that really want to get into the space.
Absolutely, yeah. We talk about this stuff already, so if people want to talk with us, let's do it. We'd be happy to.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.